Welcome to TarantulasDreamTV. You are watching a previously recorded broadcast. Tune in every Monday and Wednesday from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. on Instagram at TarantulasDreamTV for new episodes. And remember, it is a weird, weird world.
What we know about Bill Cooper, officials say he belongs to some kind of militia movement and has published several anti-establishment articles. He has a website, we understand, and on that website he acknowledges that there is an arrest warrant for him, but he writes, and we're quoting here, any attempt by any federal government agent or anyone else to execute the unlawful arrest warrants will be met with armed resistance. Any person who attempts to kidnap our children will be shot upon discovery, and that is apparently what happened earlier this morning.
It is intended for the entertainment and instruction of broad-minded adults only, and should not be played to or sold to minors under any circumstances whatsoever. Thank you.
Broadcasting from the floating pie pan in the sky at Groom Lake Analog Recordings. Welcome to Tarantulas Dream TV. Now here's your host, Samba.
Hello everyone and welcome to another broadcast of Tarantulas Dream TV. I am your host, Charizard. Actually, no, my name is
Samba.
Thank you everybody for tuning in to tonight's broadcast. We're gonna get into the thick of it tonight. Tonight is part 2 of our look at Milton Cooper, or Bill Cooper, to his conspiracy friends. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in and listening to the other half of the story. Phone number for the show is 520-704-7820. So if you have any questions or comments you want to send Samba's way at 9:30, we're opening up the phone lines for open lines. So if you have any questions, comments, or you just want to talk to old Samba over here, phone number for the show is 520-704-7820. Again, thank you for tuning in to Tarantulas Dream TV. I am your host, Samba. Now that is how you do an intro, ladies and gentlemen, or folks on the air. On Monday, I had a little technical goof, so I wanted to redeem myself. I really wanted to give it to you good with an intro. So there you go. That's how you do it. That's good radio. Anyway, so I have one headline for you all tonight because we do have a lot of ground to cover with Milton Cooper, or Bill Cooper. So I want to keep the headlines brief, but tonight this one is a local one coming from KGUN9.com. Tucson Elementary School closed after 2 staff members test positive for COVID-19. A Tucson Elementary School has been closed after 2 of its staff members tested positive for COVID-19 this week. A Tucson Unified School District spokesperson says Tolson Elementary School shut down on Tuesday after the staff members reported their positive test results to the district Monday. There were no students on the school's campus at the time, as the school continues remote learning. The 2 staff members and 6 other school employees who are potentially exposed will be self-quarantined for the next 14 days, the spokesperson said. The school has also been disinfected, but will be tentatively closed until September 1st, but may open before or after that date, depending on staff availability. So there you go. Yeah, I mean, whether or not you believe that it is time to send our kids. I say our kids as if I have a kid, but I don't. A lot of people are saying it's time to send our kids to school. They can't be at home forever, and there's such a small chance that they'll get COVID, or that they'll get COVID, but there's just not a big risk of harm for kids under a certain age. But still, I mean, it's not all just about the kids. It's also about the teachers and the teachers' aides and the faculty members. Like, it's not a good time to be sending people in large groups to be hanging out, especially children. So there you go. A school's already closed. Unfortunately, it doesn't sound like any kids were hurt or anything. So there you are. Anyway, so that was headlines for the night. So let's get into the meat of the night. Bill Cooper, William Milton Cooper. So for anyone who's tuning in for the first time tonight and did not see or hear the broadcast on Monday, which is available on my Instagram, it's almost available on YouTube. I haven't uploaded it yet because I do want to make a little edit to the video. But if you weren't here on Monday, William Milton Cooper is a conspiracy theorist, obviously. He is probably one of the most well-known conspiracy theorists amongst people in the conspiracy world. He wrote Behold a Pale Horse and published it in 1991, and that is considered sort of the conspiracy theorist Bible in a lot of ways, or just one of the main tomes, the main books that really pulls the wool off our eyes in regards to the Illuminati NWO matrix we live in. It's, what's the term, red pilled? A lot of people are saying reading this book red pills them. They take the red pill. There you go. So if you haven't read that book, a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about tonight or talked about on Monday is from that book. And I actually have a copy of the book, and I wanted to show it to you real quick, just to kind of give you a little sense of the weight of this thing. It's a big old book. It is a very heavy, piece of literature, I guess. I don't know. I will say, though, that most of the end of the book, starting from like right here, is actually just a lot of ads for a lot of different either UFO books or like New Age books, which is pretty interesting. So if you buy this book, you're also going to be able to buy books from Dr. Joshua David Stone's easy-to-read Encyclopedia of the Spiritual Path, or the Explorer Race series, Zoosh and His Friends through Robert Shapiro, which I'm not 100% sure on what that's about. It looks like it's about UFOs. So anyway, this is the book right here. So if you're planning on getting it and reading it, prepare for a long one, because it is quite the heavy book over here. But anyways, on Monday, I was getting into some of the theories that are proposed in Behold a Pale Horse, and I left off on some because I just ran out of time, because there is a lot of theories in the book. Excuse me. And I just didn't have time to really get into the full weight of some of these theories. So I wanted to save them for tonight. So the first one I get into tonight is essentially humanity is engaged in a silent war with the Illuminati or the NWO, which is a pretty common theme in a lot of conspiracy literature and amongst conspiracy circles. The NWO has control of all aspects of human stimuli, bombarding us with tightly controlled media. Social welfare programs as well as drugs were purposefully being distributed to American communities, particularly low-income and minority communities, in an effort to create a docile, dependent class of citizens. The government encouraged the manufacture and importation of military firearms for criminals to use. This is intended to foster a feeling of insecurity, which would lead the American people to voluntarily disarm themselves by passing laws against firearms. Using drugs and hypnosis on mental patients in a process called Orion, the CIA inculcated the desire to these people to open fire on schoolyards and thus inflame the anti-gun lobby. This plan is well underway and so far is working perfectly. The middle class is begging the government to do away with the Second Amendment. Now, this is an author's note from Bill Cooper. I have found that these events have indeed happened all over the country. In every instance that I have investigated, the incident at the women's school in Canada, the shopping center incident in Canada, the Stockton, California massacre, and the murder of Rabbi Meir Kahane, the shooters were all ex-mental patients or recurrent mental patients who are all on the drug Prozac. This drug, when taken in certain doses, increases the serotonin level in the patient, causing extreme violence. Couple that with the post-hypnotic suggestion or control through an electronic brain implant or microwave or ELF intrusion, and you get mass murder, ending in every case with the suicide of the perpetrator. Exhume the bodies of the murderers and check for a brain implant. I think you're going to be surprised. In every case, the name of the murderer's doctor or mental treatment facility has been withheld. I believe we will be able to establish intelligence community connections and or connections to known CIA experimental mind control programs when we finally discover who these doctors of death really are. So essentially, this kind of section of the book, or this theory, is a lot of conspiracy theorists point to this as sort of the Bill Cooper kind of predicting mass shootings happening well before mass shootings happen. Now, this is from TempleIlluminatus.com. They say, in his book, Behold a Pale Horse, published in 1991, radio talk show host Bill Cooper stated that the U.S. government was behind Project Orion. Certain FBI or CIA types were using hypnosis and drugs to get ordinary people to commit mass murder in 1999. Columbine marked the real beginning of these shooting sprees by individuals who were seeing psychiatric professionals and taking psychotropic drugs. The recent James Holmes, who was the Aurora, Colorado mass shooter, and Adam Lanza, who was the Sandy Hook mass shooter, their incidents would certainly indicate this. With James Holmes, however, there are bizarre circumstances. Holmes did not enter the theater through the lobby. Someone with a cell phone to their ear led him in through the emergency exit. It is customary in the U.S. to not use a cell phone while in a theater and illegal to let people in through the emergency exit. James Holmes had a super high capacity magazine for his AR-15, yet did not use it. He had a super high capacity 100 rifle chamber. The trouble with a magazine like that is one must wind the spring in it for it to feed bullets into the rifle's chamber. Holmes did not wind the spring, so he didn't use it. If he was this inept with this weapon, he is probably inept with all weapons. He was a scientist, not a soldier. Eyewitnesses described multiple shooters and gas canisters being thrown from different locations in the theater. Holmes was a poor graduate student. He didn't have a lot of money, so where did he get all the money to buy all that expensive gear and weaponry? The AR-15 alone is about $12,000, and the armor, or I'm sorry, $1,200, and the body armor was well over $1,000. How could he afford all that? The prosecutor is seeking the death penalty, and the trial has been off for almost a year, of February of 2014. They want him dead. They don't want answers. They don't want us to know what really happened. If Holmes mysteriously dies in jail without a trial, I would consider that a government cover-up. So, whether you believe that all these mass shooters are kind of having a lot of mental health issues just on their own, or you believe that potentially they were, I guess, kind of drugged or experimented on, or have different, potentially microchips or just on these psychiatric drugs, and that's why they're going on these shooting sprees. I'll let you decide. Me personally, I mean, the idea of a mass shooter just kind of having mental health issues doesn't seem far-fetched, and I don't know if they necessarily need psychoactive drugs to amplify that or be the cause of it, but according to Bill Cooper and a lot of conspiracy theorists, that is the reason why. And they leave off with the question, so what do you all think? So what do you all think? If you have any questions or if you have any kind of responses to this, feel free to comment, leave some comments, or give me a call when I open up the phone lines. So this next section right here by Bill Cooper, this is directly from the book. He wrote, "The media, radio, TV, newspapers, and computer networks will be nationalized and seized. Anyone who resists will be taken or killed. This entire operation was rehearsed by the government and the military in 1984 under the codename Rex 84A, and it went off without a hitch. When these events have transpired, the secret government and or alien takeover will be complete. Your freedom will never be returned, and you will live in the slavery for the remainder of your life. You had better wake up, and you had better do it now." Now, this is from Wikipedia. Now, apparently Rex 84A, which is short for Readiness Exercise 1984, was a classified scenario and drill developed by the Ronald Reagan and Oliver North to detain large numbers of United States citizens who opposed his funding of death squads in Latin America, and thus deemed by the political right to be national security threats. In the event that the president declared a national emergency, the plan was first revealed in detail in a major daily newspaper by reporter Alfonso Chardi in the July 5th, 1987 edition of the Miami Herald. Possible reasons for such a roundup were reported to be widespread opposition to a U.S. military invasion abroad, such as if the United States were to directly invade Central America. To combat what the government perceived as subversive activities, the plan also authorized the military to directly ordered movements of civilian populations at state and regional levels, according to Professor Diana Reynolds. So this was a real military exercise, the Rex 84A, or at least it was a proposed military exercise. Now whether you think it was this actually was going to happen or not, it is pretty scary to think that they were considering the idea that potentially they would have to detain U.S. citizens, I guess, I don't know, to just in case there was a lot of blowback from these operations. Now, Cooper does admit that although it appears that the alien agenda is true, he also admits that it could be a ruse orchestrated by the NWO or the Illuminati to construct a false alien invasion scenario, ultimately leading to the institution of a one-world government to ensure our safety. You must understand that, real or not, the purported presence of aliens have been used to neutralize certain widely different segments of the population. He said, "Don't worry, the benevolent Space Brothers will save you." It can also be used to fill the need for an extraterrestrial threat to justify the formation of a new world order. The aliens are eating us. The most important information that you need to determine your future actions is that this new world order calls for the destruction of the sovereignty of nations, including the United States. The new world order cannot and will not allow our Constitution to continue to exist. The new world order will be a totalitarian socialist system. We will not be slaves shackled to a cashless system of economic control. If the documentation that I viewed while I was in naval intelligence is true, then what you have just read is probably closer to the truth than anything ever written. If extraterrestrials are a hoax, then what you just read is exactly what the Illuminati wants you to believe. I can assure you beyond any shadow of a doubt that even if aliens are not real, the technology is real. Anti-gravity craft exists and human pilots fly them. I and millions of others have seen them. They are metal, they are machines. They come in different shapes and sizes, and they are obviously intelligently guided. So yeah, that's pretty much the end of what I would say is kind of my kind of summary of Behold the Pale Horse. Now, with Behold the Pale Horse, there's a lot more in this book. It's a very, like I said, it's a very dense, thick book that ultimately you kind of really have to pick through. You really have to, when you're starting to read it, you really have to just keep the ball rolling, because if you get stuck on one chapter and it's not making any sense, you'll just never get past it. But he does, like I said on Monday, he does speak in plain language. He's not really obfuscating his details. He does give you what he kind of considers documentation at the end of the book. In fact, the last, I want to say, chapter of the book is essentially just like a big repository of what he considers as evidence, a lot of just scans of documents that he kind of cites in the rest of the book. So if you are interested in Bill Cooper's theories, and you are interested in kind of getting a grasp of a lot of different conspiracy theories all in one book, this is the book to get, Behold a Pale Horse. Now, what I found out when researching this book is that not only was it one of the #1 books read in U.S. prisons, but it is also one of the most widely shoplifted books. And in fact, I don't know if this is still true. I don't even know if Barnes & Noble is still open. I think that's probably still open, but I don't know if they had to close their doors from letting people in due to COVID or anything. But apparently at one point Barnes & Noble kept this book behind the counter because it was constantly being shoplifted. So this is a book that a lot of people are anxious to kind of get their hands on, and there's legal means to do it. You can just buy it, but it is still available. It is still in print, and in fact Bill Cooper did an audiobook version for you. He read it himself. If you'd rather just listen to an audiobook, it takes about 2.5 hours. So if you have about 2.5 hours in your day and you don't quite want to sit down and just read the book, you can listen to the audiobook, and that kind of gets you all the way there without actually having to read it. And it's written by Bill Cooper, and he kind of has like a nice soothing tone to his voice, which is one of the reasons why I think he kind of was able to grab a lot of attention from people, because he has a very calming, professional demeanor that when you're listening to him speak, especially on his radio show, which we will get into after the break here, or may actually have time before the break. When you listen to him speak, he has a very professional, calming cadence. And when you listen to him read these things, it almost kind of lulls you into a feeling like, yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about. So actually, maybe listening to the audiobook might be better than reading the book. It might give you more of if you're inclined to want to believe what he's talking about. Anyway, so let me get to a couple of your comments here, because it does look like some are starting to pop over here. Benjamin, thank you for tuning in, Benjamin. Transformers. Transformers. What is that about? Did I read something about Transformers over here, or the aliens are eating us? Is that a thing from Transformers where the Decepticons try to eat us or anything? Or I don't know. I guess I was never a really big Transformers fan. When I was a kid, I guess I kind of liked the cartoon a little bit, but I honestly don't remember anything. And I did I did watch the first Transformers movie, the new one. But beyond that, I'm not a big Transformers fan. Las Muletas, hello. Did you steal the book? I actually didn't steal the book. I bought it. I bought it fair and square online many, many years ago. This is actually a different copy than the one I bought originally, because the original book I had, I lost at some point. I just wanted to own the book. I mean, you know, it's kind of just, again, I have a decent little library of paranormal, UFO, occult, and conspiracy theory books. So I figured, if you're going to have one conspiracy theory book, why not get the Bible of conspiracy theory? Jazzy Boho, hello, Jazzy Boho. Barnes & Noble had to close because Behold a Pale Horse shoplifters forced them into bankruptcy. Man, that would be a crazy idea if a bookshop as big as Barnes & Noble was depending solely on the sales of Bill Cooper's conspiracy Bible, Behold a Pale Horse. But you know what? Anything's possible, especially in 2020. Potentially, this book was just carrying bookstores around the country, so who knows? Benjamin, how does something so anti-NWO wind up for sale at Barnes & Noble? You know, it's a question for the ages. You know, how do these books that depend on consumerism and capitalism and you know, the exchange of money, you know, these books that you would imagine are just as comfortable being sold out of the back of someone's trunk, how do they end up being sold at capitalist normal book chain? I don't know, but they do. I mean, these publishers have to make money somehow, and they're not going to make it off of someone just touring the country and selling these out of the back of a station wagon or something. So if you're looking for this book, it is definitely available at Barnes & Noble. So I do want to introduce Hour of the Time here, the radio show, before I go to the break, because I do have a few minutes before I'm going to go on this break. But Bill Cooper, he hosted a shortwave radio broadcast entitled Hour of the Time from 1992 to 2001. He hosted this program from his home in Eager, Arizona, which is located in the White Mountains. This radio program, along with Behold a Pale Horse, cemented to many that Bill Cooper was a man on a mission to expose the truth hiding in plain sight, ultimately laying out before those willing to listen the Illuminati plan to enslave the human race and create a one-world government. Now, it was during this time that Bill Cooper began to pivot away from the weirder UFO-themed conspiracy theories that permeated Behold a Pale Horse and moved towards a more grounded, deeper conspiratorial message that resonated deeper with the American militia movement. The Illuminati was still present, but the UFO agenda was nothing more than an Illuminati tool to control with his assertion that UFO contact and sightings were being manufactured by the elite. Now, on the very first program of the episode, which you can find online, broadcast on January 4th, 1993, Cooper made this statement: "You must not believe anything you hear on this show, or Larry King Live, Dan Rather, George Bush, Bill Clinton, or anyone else in this entire world. Whether you hear it on radio, on television, or from the lips of someone standing in front of you, listen to everyone, read everything, believe nothing until you yourself can prove it with your own research. Only free-thinking, intelligent people who are prepared to root through all the crap and get at the truth should be listening to this show. Everyone else should just turn off the radio. We don't even want you to listen. Listen to everyone, read everything, believe nothing, until you can prove to yourself whether it is true or false, or lies between the many shades of gray. If you don't do this, if you cannot do this, you are just plain too lazy to do this, then I can assure you that you will march into the New World Order as a docile slave." So very heavy words to open up a radio show. I've listened to many episodes of Hour of the Time. It is available online. There's actually a website called hourofthetime.com that you can find all these broadcasts. It's a website dedicated to preserving the broadcast. Now, the website describes itself as, "Our mission is to lead by example in the restoration of individual liberty and independence, as envisioned by America's founders and referred to in their writings, by helping dedicated people educate themselves and prepare for the future. This is largely done through continual speaking engagements, conferences, technical and legal writing, and presentations around the country." So if you're after the break, we're going to get into some of the more highlights of some of the broadcasts. There was a ton of broadcasts. There was over 400, or there's probably even more than that, but they're all most of them are archived on houroftheTime.com. They're not the best fidelity. Apparently if you write them and donate, you can get a CD or a DVD that contains the entirety of the broadcast history in high definition. I don't really know how high definition it's going to get, as these were all taken from shortwave radio stations, which are normal radio stations, but they operate in a much shorter bandwidth than the normal radio stations, so they're not in the best fidelity, but they're more than listenable. And if you're anywhere curious about Bill Cooper and this radio show, he was a very good broadcaster. He was a very good speaker. Whether you believe him or not is kind of not really the point. It is just like an interesting radio show. So anyways, it's 9:27. It's a couple minutes before the break. I do want to get to my song of the night. Now, I'm feeling very honored to do this, but this is a Tarantula's Dream TV exclusive. This is from the group Ugly Doris. They are a local group based out of Tucson, Arizona. This song's called The Act Of, and it's from their 2020 pre-release demo. So these are not available anywhere. They're not available online. There's no tape, there's no CD, no vinyl, no ADAT, no 8-track, nothing. So this you heard it here first, folks. So at 9:30, I'm going to open up the phone lines, 520-704-7820, if you have anything you'd like to say about Bill Cooper, if you just want to ask Samba a question, if you just want to shoot the S, as they say. But enjoy some Ugly Doris. I'm very excited to play this song for y'all, and I will see you all in a few minutes.
Sentir esto juntos, una sesión de unirnos para siempre, y puedo ver este esfuerzo que nos une ahora, nos une ahora.
go. That was Ugly Doris, a brand new group out of Tucson, Arizona, with a Tarantulas Dream TV exclusive. That was their song, The Act Of, from their 2020 pre-release demos. So, unfortunately, you can't find them anywhere online. At this point, no Bandcamp. You can't throw the bones at them in any way. So, show them some love in the comments or something, or send me a message. Let me know what you think. I'm very happy to be able to play their song on the air. So look for Ugly Doris, sometime in 2020, the end of 2020, 2021 or sometime. Hopefully at some point we'll be able to have some live shows again, and maybe they'll see a Ugly Doris on the bill somewhere. So anyways, it's 9:31. It is open line. So if you have any questions or comments for Samba about Bill Cooper, or just want to talk, phone number for the show is 520-704-7820. It is open lines. Now let me get to a few more of these comments over here before we get back into Hour of the Time and Bill Cooper. So Jazzy Boho, Trunk and Mobile. Yeah, if you have a book, if you're trying to sell some books, trying to give away some documentation, some pamphlets or something, and you want to throw that on the top of your car, Trunk and Mobile. I don't think you're going to get sued by Barnes & Noble. I'm sure it's a free and open term for you to use. Benjamin, ooh, yes, ooh to Ugly Doris. That was such a great song, such a spooky jam. Really sets the tone for the rest of the night. And hello, Old Adam Man. Hello, give me the rock hand sign and a black heart. So looks like you enjoyed the song, Old Adam Man. So I'm glad it looks like you're maybe a potential fan for Ugly Doris. So anyways, 9:32. It is open line. So if you have any questions or comments for Samba, 520-704-7820. Oh, and looks like one more comment came in. Bourbon Gem. Hello, Bourbon Gem. Miss you ding dong. I miss you too, Bourbon Gem. Maybe someday we'll be able to get you here in the studio, or maybe I'll be able to get out of the studio, and we'll be able to hang out and grab a delicious bite to eat, or maybe we can do an in-studio interview, talk about the old days when times were fun and times were easy and cool and easy, Anyway, so back to the show with Bill Cooper and his radio show, Hour of the Time. So last we left off, he gave a real warning shot across the bow with his opening episode. So a few now. What I'm going to get into here is a few of the episodes of Hour of the Time, because there's way too much to go over in 9:30. Oh, looks like we have a caller on the show. Hello, caller. Are you on Tarantulas Dream TV?
Is this Samba?
Hello, this is Samba. Who am I speaking to?
How are you, Samba?
Oh, I'm doing just fine, caller. How are you doing?
That's nice to know.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome.
Yeah. What is going on here? Is this a robot on the phone? Who am I talking to?
Bill Cooper have any influence on the X-Files?
Did Bill Cooper have any influence on the X-Files? Honestly, if I had to take a guess, because it doesn't seem like there's any direct links that I can find, but if I had to take a guess, I would say yes. I'd say, the creators of the X-Files, they were definitely in tune with the ideas that a lot of conspiracy theorists were already spreading. I mean, they were definitely had their ear to the ground. I think a lot of their episodes and their storylines, especially with the UFO kind of through line throughout the entire series, I think they were, I think they knew more than they let on, and they definitely, whether it's they listened to Philip Schneider, Bill Cooper, or even Alex Jones, who was on the radio at the time in the early 90s. I'd say if I had to take a guess, I'd say they were definitely inspired by these conspiracy theorists.
Story. It would seem that perhaps the types of UFOs and aliens were aliens.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carl. I didn't get that last part. You said UFOs and aliens. What was the last part?
Writing.
Man, robot. This robot is...
Thanks for taking my call. Have a good night.
You're welcome, RoboCaller. Thanks for calling and tuning in.
Bye.
Bye-bye, caller. All right, there you go. That was a caller. I don't know what was going on with that caller. It's very scary. I don't know what was going on with that. But yes, if I had to guess, the X-Files were definitely inspired by conspiracy theorists. I mean, I don't know. A lot of their alien episodes, were, I would say, pulled directly from a lot of these conspiracy theories that were floating around since the 80s. So whether they believed it was true or not, or just some good TV fodder, we'll never know. But yes, thank you, caller, for bringing that to light. Anyway, so back to Bill Cooper, an hour of the time. So one of the more interesting theories, and also kind of the more disturbing theories that Bill Cooper had, was that he believed that AIDS was a bioweapon created to cut down on the population, going so far as to declare that a prophylactic and cure were developed alongside the virus, but was being suppressed. Now, in a January 1993 episode of Hour of the Time, Cooper went into detail in regards to this theory, and I do have a little clip for you of him talking about his theory on AIDS.
Well, I hope you're comfortable tonight, because tonight's a shocker. Make sure you're sitting in your favorite chair, and your mind is open, and you're ready to listen. Because tonight you're going to learn about one of the most heinous crimes in history. It's being largely ignored because no one wants to face it. In light of the evidence, and those of us who are willing to talk about it, if you're not willing to face it, you'd at least better be willing to listen about it. I was holding in my hands a set of documents describing a project called MK Naomi. MK Naomi was a biological warfare project. The purpose of the project was to develop a microbe, a biological agent of whatever kind, that would attack the autoimmune system in human beings and thus render production of a vaccine impossible. It was considered to be the ultimate biological weapon, and according to the documentation, authorities feared that a foreign nation would develop such a weapon first, and since we would have no experience with such a weapon, would be helpless in the face of it. The document outlined the pressing need to develop this biological weapon so that we could study means to overcome it should it be used against us by a foreign country. The documents also stated that such a biological warfare weapon could be used on targeted populations.
There you go. That was Bill Cooper, kind of getting into his theories on kind of the genesis and the reason for AIDS. Now, Cooper also wrote an article entitled "AIDS is Man-Made" in 1990, and in this article he gets a little more in detail in what he feels about the AIDS virus. So he says, "To all, during my talks in Las Vegas last weekend, I revealed a few things about AIDS that I have been keeping close to my chest. I have already revealed that I saw that AIDS was man-made to eliminate the undesirable elements of society while I was attached to naval security and intelligence. I stated this fact in my paper, The Secret Government." Now for the rest of the story. The first study was made in 1957 by a scientist meeting in Huntsville, Alabama. That study resulted in Alternative 3. Another study was made by the Club of Rome in 1968 to determine the limits to growth. The result of the study was that civilization as we know it would collapse shortly after the year 2000 unless the population was seriously curtailed. Several top-secret recommendations was made to the ruling elite by Dr. Aurelio Peccier of the Club of Rome. The chief recommendation was to develop a microbe which would attack the autoimmune system and thus render the development of a vaccine impossible. The orders were given to develop the microbe and to also develop a cure and a prophylactic. The microbe would be used against the general population and would be introduced by vaccine administration by the World Health Organization. The prophylactic was to be used by the ruling elite. The cure will be administered to the survivors when they decide that enough people have died. It will be announced as newly developed. The plan was called Global 2000. The cure and the prophylactic are suppressed. Funding was obtained from the U.S. Congress under HB 15090, where $10 million was given to the Department of Defense to produce a synthetic biological agent, an agent that does not naturally exist and for which no natural immunity could have been acquired. Within the next 5 to 10 years, it would probably be possible to make a new infective microorganism, which would differ in certain important aspects for any known disease-causing organisms. So whether you believe that AIDS was man-made or not, I don't particularly believe that, but it does kind of shine a light on sort of the more modern kind of feelings on potentially the government creating viruses to control populations, especially now with COVID-19. There's a lot of conspiracy theories revolving around COVID-19, the idea that it was a bioweapon developed by China or even potentially developed by someone else, maybe even the U.S. government. Again, it's kind of up to you to kind of decipher whether or not you believe those kind of things, but it does show that even back, the idea that viruses being created by governments to control populations is not a new theory, and in Bill Cooper's theories here probably don't help people now who already kind of have a distrust for the government, and especially in regards to viruses and whatnot. So the seeds for distrust have been sowed for a long time. Another thing that Cooper was kind of known for was his beliefs on the Oklahoma City bombing that he made known on a 2001 broadcast, which I have a clip right here of.
Now, how stupid can you be to believe that Timothy McVeigh was the mastermind of the destruction of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City, and just he and Terry Nichols, who appears to be somewhat of a fool, plotted, planned, obtained all the different materials, put together a bomb of such force that it brought down what we call in the military a hard target, a target held up by steel, reinforced, concrete, columns, and he had no help. No help. And that there really was no person called John Doe number 2, that was all a mistake, and the drawings and the pictures they put out were not real people, and that was all a mistake. Well, I know that's a lie because Michael Brescia, who is John Doe number 2, the spitting image of the drawings that they put out, wearing the exact same cap that was worn by the man in the drawings that they put out, with the same tattoo on his left arm, stood in front of me for 10 minutes and talked to me in the company of Timothy McVeigh. And Tim McVeigh was not the leader. Tim McVeigh probably didn't say more than 25 or 30 words during the entire time. Michael Brescia did all of the talking, and the last thing he said before they left in their green Mercury Marquis station wagon with a puke yellow interior was watch Oklahoma City. If anyone was in charge, at least on that day, it was Michael Brescia, John Doe number 2, not ever Timothy McVeigh.
There you go. So that was Bill Cooper talking about the Oklahoma City bombing and his beliefs that Timothy McVeigh was not the figurehead or the mastermind behind the Oklahoma City bombing. And he gets a little into Michael Brescia. Now, Michael Brescia was alleged to be John Doe number 2 during the investigation of the Oklahoma City bombing. Now, this is from Wikipedia. Now, Brescia was rumored to be the John Doe number 2, seen by several witnesses with McVeigh in the days preceding and the day of the bombing. The Daily Telegraph also ran an interview with a witness named Connie Smith, who said, I keep telling them that the man in the John Doe sketch was that Mike guy, a nice-looking guy, dark-skinned, but the FBI made me feel guilty, then ignorant, as if I didn't know what I was saying. Then later I tried to call in with more information and they wouldn't even talk to me. Andreas Streismeyer, who was Brescia's roommate during his stay at a white separatist colony, Elohim City in eastern Oklahoma, claimed that the day of the bombing, Brescia was in Arkansas attending a rally protesting the execution of Richard Wayne Snell. So, you know, again, there is a lot more. I'd say there's more credence to the idea that there potentially might have been more people involved in the Oklahoma City bombing as opposed to just being two people. Whether you believe that they let Bill Cooper know in advance like that, on the show with Bill Cooper. Now, Alex Jones. Now, Bill Cooper was not a fan of fellow conspiracy radio host Alex Jones. Now, he appeared once on the Alex Jones program, but afterwards left with, for lack of better words, very negative feelings towards Jones. And I actually have a clip right here of him talking about Alex Jones, and it does get saucy, so get ready for some saucy Bill Cooper.
Alex Jones said he had me on the air once before, several years ago, and had to cut me off the air because of the foul language that I used. So on the air tonight, I'm going to tell you, Alex Jones, you are a bold-faced, miserable, stinking little coward liar. Now, let me say that again so there's no mistake about it. You can all tell Alex Jones that I said this, and I suspect he's listening because he does. Alex Jones, you are a bold-faced, stinking, rotten little coward liar. I was only on the Alex Jones show one time. It was years ago when I didn't know who he was, when I didn't realize what a liar and a coward and a sensationalist bullshit artist that he is. He was on one little FM station down in Texas. He wasn't on all the stuff that he's on now. And I agreed to be on his broadcast. That's when I was doing guest appearances on broadcasts years ago. I've also revealed him for the lying sensationalist bullshit artist that he is by every once in a while bringing to your attention the lies and the deceit and the rumors that he spreads over the airwaves that are not good for any of us, and they're not good for the nation. They are especially not good for militia and patriots. The most disgusting broadcast he ever did was on New Year's Eve, the year 2000. The New Year's Eve, 1999, bringing in the year 2000, which he went completely out of his mind and claimed that Russia had launched intercontinental ballistic missiles with multiple warheads at the United States of America and actually panicked millions of people who were putting their children and their belongings in their cars and heading for the hills. Now, there's lots of things that can be said about me. Nobody needs to lie about me. Sometimes I am irritating. Sometimes I absolutely will not suffer fools and am just as rude as I can be. Nobody has to lie about me, Alex Jones. So I suggest that the next time somebody calls your broadcast and asks them about me, you tell the truth. There's lots of truth that you can tell about me. But don't ever lie on me, buddy, because I'll chop you off at your ankles. I will chew you up. I will spit you out for the lying, stinking, rotten little coward that you are.
There you go. And that was Bill Cooper really giving it to Alex Jones over there. You know, he was not a fan of Alex Jones. And in fact, it is very well known that Bill Cooper did not play well with any other really conspiracy theorists. He did not like the competition. He didn't like the idea that other people were kind of spreading conspiracy theories or the truth. He didn't like having competition. So he was not a fan of Alex Jones, and I find that clip very interesting, just of how much he really hated Alex Jones, which was kind of sad for Alex Jones, because as far as I could tell in the research, Alex Jones really looked up to Bill Cooper. It was like his hero. So imagine your hero in life kind of just giving you the business on the radio. Now, the most famous and troubling of Cooper's predictions on Hour of the Time occurred on January 28th, 2001. Now, this is from RollingStone.com, and I have a little under 10 minutes here, so I'm going to try to get to the entirety of this little article right here. Now, a little past his 58th birthday and drinking heavily, Cooper was doing his program from a studio he'd built in the den of his house in the White Mountains of Eagar, Arizona. He said, "Can you believe what you have been seeing on CNN today, ladies and gentlemen?" Cooper asked the Hour of the Time audience. Supposedly, a CNN reporter found Osama bin Laden, took a television camera crew with him, and interviewed him and his top leadership, lieutenants, and his colonels and generals in their hideout. Now, don't you think it's kind of strange, folks? Cooper asked with his signature chuckle. Because the largest intelligence apparatus in the world, the biggest budget in the history of the world, has been looking for Osama bin Laden for years and years and years and can't find him. But some doofus jerk-off reporter with his little camera crew waltzes right into his secret hideout and interviews him. This meant one of two things, Cooper told the audience. Either everyone in the intelligence community and all the intelligence agencies of the United States government are blithering idiots and incompetent fools, or they're lying to us. The fact was, Cooper told the audience, no one in the U.S. intelligence services was really looking for Osama bin Laden. They knew where he was. They had since the beginning of the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. Bin Laden, along with his entire family, was a wholly owned subsidiary of the Central Intelligence Agency. They created him. They're the ones funding him. They supported him to make their new utopian worlds, and he served them well. There were rumors floating around the mass media that bin Laden was planning attacks on the United States and Israel, but this was just subterfuge, Cooper said. If Osama bin Laden is an enemy of Israel, don't you think the Mossad would have taken care of that a long time ago? Something else was in the wind. There was no other reason for the government to allow the CNN report but to further stamp bin Laden's bearded, pointy face upon the collective American mindset. Boogeyman of the moment, the Saudi prince was being readied for his close-up. I'm telling you to be prepared for a major attack, Cooper declared. The target would be a large American city. Something terrible is going to happen in this country, and whatever is going to happen, they're going to blame on Osama bin Laden. Don't you even believe it? 2.5 months later, on September 11, 2001, after two commercial airliners flew into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in a cataclysm that killed 2,996 people, including 343 New York City Fire Department personnel, Cooper's prediction came to pass. If the United States government had no warning, like they say, if they didn't know what was going to who was going to mount these attacks, and there are no survivors from the people in these planes, how do they know Osama bin Laden is behind it? Cooper made another prediction. Folks, I can assure you that 72 hours from now we will be at war. We will be bombing 2 or maybe 3 countries, because that's how it works. When governments are attacked, they lash out. Thousands of people who had nothing whatsoever to do with what is happening at the World Trade Center and the Pentagon are going to die. Nothing will be the same after today, Cooper said grimly. Get ready for it, folks, because that's what you're going to be hearing in the next few weeks and months on radio and television. Nothing will be the same after today, because I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that's what the people who really did this want you to think, that nothing will be the same after today. And you know what? They're right. They're telling the truth about that. Within weeks, the Congress will pass draconian legislation aimed at restricting the rights of American citizens. You're going to have surveillance cameras on every street corner. You think your phones are being tapped now? Just wait. No one is going to gain from this except a very small group of people. Everyone else will lose. No one will lose more than the American people. So yeah, there are a lot of conspiracy theorists are pointing to this as proof that Bill Cooper predicted 9/11. There is evidence to say that Bill Cooper. There was a lot of reports during 2001 that were kind of echoing the idea that Osama bin Laden was planning some sort of attack, or we have all, I think, read some of the news or some of the articles saying that the White House did have memos that specifically pointed to the idea that there would potentially be a large-scale terrorist attack in the U.S. coming soon. So the idea that the White House knew nothing is definitely not accurate at all. So whether Bill Cooper was just tapped into kind of more of the pipeline of that kind of information is unfortunately yet we'll never really know, because because of what I'm about to report now. Now, this is from LATimes.com from an article published November 7, 2001. A wanted militia figure who vowed that he would never be taken alive was killed by a law enforcement officer after he shot a sheriff's deputy trying to arrest him, authorities said Tuesday. William Milton Cooper, 58, whose anti-government radio program included Oklahoma City bomber Timothy J. McVeigh as a fan, was fatally shot at his Eager, Arizona home after confronting deputies late Monday and shooting one of them in the head. Deputy Robert Martinez was hospitalized in critical condition with life-threatening wounds. Authorities said that a gun battle ensued when Apache County deputies tried to arrest Cooper on charges of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and endangerment stemming from disputes with local residents in July and September. A handgun-toting Cooper fled when the deputies identified themselves. He opened fire as two deputies closed in, Bolden said. So, yes, Bill Cooper died in a shootout with local police. Now, there are theories that this was actually, he was actually murdered, and essentially he was entrapped. Now, this is from bibliotecapleiades.net. I do have just a few minutes here, so I want to get to this quick. Apparently, this is from a kind of a private memo they had. Apparently, officers deliberately caused a ruckus to get this man, or Cooper, away from his home to create this entrapment. He went down the hill away from his home to the automobile to see what the ruckus was. It was two law officers in plain clothes. He spoke to them, then got back in his car to go back up to his house. When out of hiding come a patrol car that blocked his return to his home. He put his hands in the car window, as we assume that is what he was ordered to do. As they approached his car, he pulled out to get around the car. He got out of his car and tried to run from his home. Shots were fired. He returned fire, hitting one officer in the head twice, whom is in surgery in St. Joe's Hospital. The other officer continued to fire until Cooper was dead. So there's conspiracies that potentially he was kind of entrapped to come out with a gun, and he was killed. So his life ended, in conspiracy, unfortunately. So whether you believe his theories, whether you believe him, kind of doesn't really matter at this point, because a lot of people do and have kind of used his theories and magnified their own. And now we have situations like we're living in now with QAnon and kind of more mainstream stuff. So there you go. That was Bill Cooper. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to this week's episodes. I did notice that it looks like I was having some internet issues over here, so I will have some news maybe potentially next week. I might be moving to YouTube. I'm getting a little perturbed at the idea that my streams are not going smoothly over here, and it's nothing I can do. It's just Instagram issues. So potentially next week, if you're all down, I might be trying to do an experiment in broadcasting this on YouTube. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I'll be back next week. I believe I'm going to be talking about some UFOs, some modern day UFO stories, and so we're going to get into that next week, potentially, like I said, on YouTube. I'll send a message to everybody on Instagram if that looks like it's going to be the case, because I just want the show to go smooth. If Instagram's going to be kind of a pain and they want me to use my phone to broadcast this, and I don't think it'll be as fun. I won't be able to play any songs. I won't be able to really engage with people the same way that I do here. So, and it looks like Benjamin, whoa, the tube, I'm down. Yes, and Las Maletas, what do you think Cooper would think of the Trump presidency? Honestly, if you go on to Vice.com, there was an article written about Bill Cooper, and there's an interview with an author of a book, Pale Horse Rider, William Cooper, The Rise of Conspiracy and the Fall of Trust in America, and he goes in pretty deep with the idea of Bill Cooper probably not liking the Trump presidency. But anyways, I'll be back next week. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and remember, it is a weird world. Take care.